If we compare this amazing portrait by Vasily Grebennikov and this super refined, smooth image of a sphere, it seems as if they really have nothing to do with each other. And while I want to admit that that's totally true, it's also exactly why we're doing this. Drawing and rendering out a sphere in any style is a kind of laboratory environment. A sphere is a kind of perfect geometry, and the light affecting that sphere works mathematically the same in all situations. So if we understand the light and we understand the form, we can consider and isolate the stylistic changes that we want to make from what is specifically naturalistic. So the drawing we're going to do here will not be laid out like some safe procedural drawing. We're going to take risks. We're going to use very soft, very dark pencils in the first part of the lesson, and we're going to try to manifest a truly heavy metal vision of this sphere. Unsurprisingly, when most people think about drawing a sphere and rendering out the shadow and light that they find there, will include smooth gradations and beautiful, soft rendering. What happens if we throw all of that out? Now, I bet if you've grown up in an academic tradition of drawing, you've literally never found yourself doing this. I'm not sure if the drawing is totally secure. I'm adding some of my darkest darks by applying graphite with a really heavy pressure. But here's why I think it works. When you have a hard application of graphite that's really dark and really attached to the paper, you need to also work hard with your eraser to move that around. It's that hard work and pressing and slashing that actually creates some of the textures that we find in Grebennikov's work. So by creating a problem, we also create an opportunity for the solution. That's what I want you to be doing. Taking leaps of faith, considering that you want an artistic outcome, a stylistic outcome, rather than a safe one. The whole point here, and what I want to express to you, is that we can add something, we can tear it down, we can forcefully remove it, add it back again, we can discover things that we really wouldn't have thought of on our own. I want you to discover new ways to render things. Discovery, by its very nature, is an inefficient way to go about doing things. Think about knowing where 2 points are on a map. Understanding that the quickest way to get from one to the other is a straight line. That's not what we're doing here. We're taking the most circuitous route possible. We are taking a zigging and zagging and looping line in between those 2 points. We may find that we create something brilliant and then we ruin it. And then we need to recreate something different, something that we haven't seen before. That journey of discovery will mean that you'll lose some things. The only hope is that you arrive in a place that is, in the end, as cool as you'd like it to actually be. There's no reason on planet Earth to render a sphere this way, except to try to figure out how to manifest the essence of a style in a control situation. I say that as a disclaimer because I don't want you to think I'm crazy. I just have a very specific goal in mind. In my How to Study Style course, we go through several different levels of projects, starting out with the simplest possible idea we can, and progressively getting into more and more complex subjects. At each level, you're going to be able to learn not only what is conceptually important about studying style, but how to practically integrate that into your drawing process. And I want to let you know that right now, you're going to get 20% off my How to Study Style course. It's for a very limited time only, so please don't hesitate, and I'll see you on Proko.com. I also want to take this opportunity to mention something that is emphatically true. You will do things when experimenting like this that you will regret. Early on in the drawing, when I was pulling my eraser through the darkest passages of this gradation, I left behind some of these horizontal striations, one of which is right in the middle of the center light. And you know what? I can't get rid of it. I've used all the erasers that I have on it, and it still persists. It shows up right in the middle of my light shape. For me personally, that grates on my conscience. I'm bothered by it. But if I step back, I believe that artifacts like this one just make up a particular kind of character in the drawing. There's plenty of things in Grebennikov's portrait that I would look at in my own work and think, that's something I screwed up. But like so many things in the history of art making, what is a problem of that moment becomes an aesthetic that we appreciate into the future. This is my way of just giving you permission to have parts of your drawing that don't conform to your usual standards of representation and rendering. I also mention here, don't obsessively clean up your drawing. Some of the things that right now look a little bit messy, in the end could actually wind up being one of the coolest features. The way that this edge blows out, for example, I think is really amazing. I wouldn't have thought of it, and I don't want to over clean it and kind of remove that and come back to my conventional sphere concept. You know, so often when we're drawing, we make excuses for ourselves and we scrub away the things in our own drawings that we love in other people's drawings. Part of drawing like this and part of chasing a style is to be audacious. You need to take a chance and then believe in that chance. Hold on to it. Let that be a characteristic in your drawing that pulls people in. These marks look exciting. And that's what I want my drawing to be. Exciting, not boring and bland and expected and clean and tidy and full of excuses for its existence. I want it to look like a passionate, mad person made this drawing of a sphere. And I think that it's important to keep things like that inside the drawing if that's the impression you want. I've used a lot of language in this lesson that makes it sound like I'm being creative beyond all boundaries of sense or reason. And far from walking that back, I just want to explain to you why that is. When we take something as generic as a sphere with a single light source on it and try to translate that into something with myriad permutations of texture and value application, I think you really have to kind of get in your bag to do that. The difference in between this as a heavy metal sphere and our source image, and the difference in between Grebenikov's drawing and his model is probably quite a bit more. We have to take a leap off a steeper cliff to get this to look particularly creative. And that's that balance that we're trying to strike in between this massively abstract exercise and something that really follows the rules of classic realism. I want the light to seem like light and the shadows to seem like shadows. I want the gradients to be performed in a way that's consistent to how light operates in this environment. I just want to do so with a creative twist that puts my own spin and my own special appreciation of what looks cool into that space. As we come towards the end of this project, I want to make something ruthlessly clear. There is no correct version of what this Grebenikov sphere looks like. This is one theory. You saw how 5 minutes ago it changed from being one idea into a new one that maybe I like a little bit better. But that doesn't mean it's more correct or more accurate. It just means I generated the right stylistic effects to both please my own taste, but also to match a little bit better the feeling that you get from that Grebenikov drawing. You could go forward and make 100 of these sphere drawings and come up with 100 different solutions to what a beautiful gradient looked like in that style. And in fact, that's what I think is actually the power of his work. No portrait will look alike because he incorporates randomness into his drawing. Because discovery is a part of his process, he'll always find a way to show us something about portraiture that we haven't seen before. And while we're looking at the sphere that we made, whether we love it or we hate it, it's kind of irrelevant. Inevitably, we've discovered something new through the experimentation that we've made. And I would like you just for a moment to imagine the creativity that we have used here to generate a sphere that looks so different and so unique from what our source image looks like. Imagine what happens when we take that same level of creativity and bravery and apply it to a portrait and a full composition. I want to tell you probably the most important thing that you need to take away from lessons like these. Studying style and practicing style means that there are multiple positive outcomes. In fact, there are as many positive outcomes as there are people studying style. This is about finding what works for you, not a generic black and white, right-wrong answer to drawing. So that's all. Thanks for watching. I'm Stephen Bauman, and I hope that you'll join me. Follow the link in the description of this video on Proko.com and find out how to study style and really how to become who you are as an artist.